My husband asked for an open marriage, so I hooked up with his boss. He looked me in the eyes over our anniversary dinner, carving into his steak, and told me he needed to open our marriage. Then, 4 months later, he discovered who I'd been dating, and his entire world imploded. You know, there are moments in life that just stop you cold. For me, that moment happened on our 8th wedding anniversary. We were at our favorite restaurant, candlelight, soft music. He leaned across the table, picked up his steak knife, and with this casual, almost bored tone, he said, "I need more freedom sexually. We need to open our marriage. Here's 2 beautiful kids, a mortgage." And he was telling me I wasn't enough, without even looking up. My breath hitched. My mind raced. Is there someone else? I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. He finally met my gaze, a strange glint in his eye. "Not yet," he said. "But there could be. That's why we need to open the marriage now, before anything happens. It's the ethical way." The ethical way. Can you believe it? He'd been drowning himself in polyamory forums, clearly rehearsing this entire monologue about expanding love and toxic monogamy culture. What he really meant was that his 23-year-old coworker, Hannah, had been flirting with him, and he wanted my permission to jump into bed with her. He even had the audacity to deliver this little ultimatum. "If I say no, then I'll have to reconsider if this marriage meets my needs." What could I do? Truly, what choice did he leave me? Start over at 35 with 2 young children, completely heartbroken? So I agreed. I swallowed the bitter pill, nodding as if it made perfect sense. And just like that, within a week he was dating Hannah. He'd be out 3 nights a week, sometimes more. He'd come home smelling of her perfume, a scent that clung to him like a cheap lie. Meanwhile, I was home, helping with homework, making school lunches, and then, after the kids were finally asleep, I'd cry into a glass of wine, wondering where my life had gone. 3 months of this absolute misery went by. My best friend, bless her heart, finally staged an intervention. She looked at me, fierce and determined, and said, "You are not going to sit here while he lives his best life. We're getting you a dating profile." The first match that really caught my eye was a man named Dominic, 52. A silver fox CEO type. His first message made me laugh. Genuinely laugh. I hadn't realized how long it had been since I'd actually felt joy. Our first date was electric. He listened to me talk about my kids, my work, my dreams. All the things my husband had stopped caring about months, maybe even years ago. When he kissed me goodnight, I felt wanted, truly desired, for the first time in what felt like an eternity. We dated for 2 months before things got physical. I won't go into details, but let's just say, experience truly matters. When I finally told my husband I was seeing someone as per our rules, he actually patted my head. "Good for you, honey," he said with a condescending smile. "Didn't think you had it in you." Then he left for another night with Hannah. By the way, if you're still with me on this wild ride, and trust me, it's about to get even crazier, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next, or any of the other unbelievable stories I'll be sharing. Dominic and I had been dating for about 4 months when disaster, or what I thought was disaster, struck. He'd accidentally left some work documents in my car. He asked if I could drop them off at his office and sent me the address. I knew that address. My stomach clenched. It was my husband's company. No way. I walked into that building, praying they just worked in the same massive complex. But the receptionist, with a bright smile, directed me to the very top floor. The executive floor. My heart hammered against my ribs. And then Dominic emerged from the corner office, the CEO's office, and kissed me hello. He took the documents. "Thanks, beautiful," he said. "See you tonight." As I turned to leave, my eyes locked with my husband's. He was standing frozen by the elevator. His face a mask of shock and something else. Pure fury. The car ride home was utterly silent. The tension was so thick I thought I'd suffocate. The second we walked through the door, he exploded. "My boss. You're sleeping with my boss." He was practically screaming. I stared at him, my own anger bubbling to the surface. "You're sleeping with your coworker," I shot back. "That's different," he spluttered. "How?" He's my boss. Do you know what people will think? That I'm getting promoted because my wife is sleeping with the CEO. The irony, the sheer, mind-boggling hypocrisy of it all, almost made me laugh. "You should have thought about that," I told him, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands, "before opening the marriage." He stared at me, his eyes wide. "I want to close it. Well, tonight. You end things with Dominic." I shook my head. A sense of calm, of cold, hard resolve settled over me. "No," I said firmly. "You opened it to date Hannah. You don't get to close it just because you don't like who I'm dating." His jaw dropped. "I'll divorce you," he spat, a desperate threat. I just shrugged. "Go ahead. Dominic's already offered to have his lawyer represent me pro bono." It was a complete lie, of course. Bluff. But he didn't need to know that. The next morning Dominic called me early. "We need to talk. Can you come by?" I met him at his house, not the office. He looked incredibly serious. "Your husband came to my office," he began. "Made some accusations." My heart sank. "What kind of accusations?" I asked, dread creeping in. "That you're using me to hurt him. That you targeted me specifically because I'm his boss. That you knew who I was from the beginning." "That's insane," protested. "I had no idea." Dominic nodded. "I know. But he also showed me these." He pulled out his phone. Screenshots of texts I'd never sent. Conversations about deliberately seducing his boss. They were fake but terrifyingly sophisticated. "He's trying to get me fired," I whispered, the reality of his malice crashing down on me. "No," Dominic said, his voice grim. "He's trying to get us both destroyed. There's more." He then showed me an email. An email my husband had sent to the entire board of directors, attaching those fake messages, claiming I was part of a honeypot scheme to blackmail the company. My world spun. My own husband trying to destroy me professionally and personally. "Dominic," I stammered. "I would never." "I know," he said, his gaze unwavering. "But there's something else." He looked genuinely nervous now. "I had my head of security look into this. Your husband's been planning this for months. Before he ever even asked to open the marriage." "What?" My jaw went slack. Dominic continued, his voice heavy. "He incorporated an LLC 6 months ago with Hannah. They're starting a competing firm. He needed me gone to poach my clients." It was a cold, calculated hit. The open marriage, the entire charade, was just a smokescreen. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. Opened it. "Check your husband's laptop. Password is Hannah0214. Look at the folder labeled Exit Strategy. You're not going to like what's in there. A friend." Dominic read it over my shoulder. His eyes widened. "Go," he urged. "Go now before he gets home." My hands were shaking so hard I could barely steer. What was in that folder? I sped home, tires screeching as I pulled into the driveway. I was out of the car before the engine even stopped, my hands fumbling with the lock. I prayed he wasn't home yet, not from whatever he was doing with Hannah. The house was empty. Silent. Felt like a small miracle. I ran upstairs to his office. His laptop was sitting on the desk, closed, but not locked away like it usually was. I grabbed it, flipped it open. The login screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Hannah0214. I typed it, held my breath, half expecting it to fail. But the screen unlocked immediately. Right there on the desktop was a folder labeled Exit Strategy. In plain sight, like he never expected anyone to access his computer. Clicked it open. My stomach dropped. Dozens of files, meticulously organized by date. They went back 8 months. The first document I opened was titled Timeline. It laid everything out in brutal detail. 6 months before he asked to open our marriage. He started planning this whole thing with Hannah. 6 months. The open marriage was just cover. Just a way to make it look like I agreed to everything. I scrolled through the document. Dates, events, milestones. March 15th. Met with Hannah about business plan. April 2nd. Open joint account for LLC. May 10th. First client target identified. June 1st. Propose open marriage to wife. My anniversary dinner. The day he dropped the bomb. It was marked on his calendar like a business meeting. I clicked on the next file. Spreadsheets. Our joint finances. Every account we shared was listed. He'd highlighted which ones he could drain, which ones I'd notice immediately. He'd calculated exactly how much he could take before triggering any alerts. Our savings account. $47,000. Investment account. $23,000. He had Excel formulas, actual Excel formulas, calculating the maximum theft amount. Plan down to the dollar. Another file contained LLC formation documents. The company was called Momentum Solutions. Hannah was listed as co-founder. Incorporated 6 months ago, exactly when his timeline started. They'd been building a whole company behind everyone's backs. Then, client transfer strategy. 30 of Dominic's biggest clients. Each one with notes. Contracts, pain points, vulnerabilities. My husband had been systematically studying these accounts, planning exactly how to steal them. Johnson Industries, $2.3 million annual contract renewal in October. Dissatisfied with response times. He'd been taking notes, building files, preparing to poach every valuable client Dominic had. A subfolder labeled, Insurance. I opened it and found screenshots of text conversations between me and Dominic. But these texts were wrong. Hey, did you know my husband works for you? This could be fun. Another. I've always wanted to date a CEO. Think of the possibilities. These were fake. He'd been creating fake evidence for months. Doctoring screenshots to make it look like I targeted Dominic deliberately, like I knew who he was from the beginning. Dozens of them. All fake. All designed to destroy my credibility. Then, custody advantage. My blood ran cold. He'd documented every time I'd had wine with dinner. Every playdate I'd missed for work. Every moment he could twist to make me look like a bad mother. Wife had 3 glasses of wine. Children still awake at 9 p.m. Wife missed school pickup. Children waited 20 minutes. Wife worked late. Children ate frozen pizza for dinner. He'd been building a case against me. Recording everything. Twisting normal life into evidence of neglect. Kept scrolling. More files. So many more. Board presentation. Media strategy. Divorce timeline. He'd planned everything. Every single move, every backup plan, every contingency. My phone buzzed. It was Dominic. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I answered, my voice coming out steadier than I expected. He asked if I was okay. No, I told him. I'm not okay. What I'm looking at is so much worse than we thought. He asked what I meant, and I started reading him the file names out loud. Exit strategy, client transfer, custody advantage, narrative control. He went quiet for a second, then his voice, tight with controlled anger, told me to stop reading and start photographing. Every single document, every email, every spreadsheet. Send everything to his secure email address right now. He was calling Scott, his corporate attorney. I needed to get every piece of evidence off that laptop before my husband came home. I opened my email and started attaching photos as fast as I could. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Something about taking action, about gathering proof, made me feel focused instead of scared. I went back to the exit strategy folder and found a subfolder I'd missed. Email archive. Dozens of messages between my husband and Hannah. The first one I clicked was from 5 months ago, a week after he opened the marriage. Hannah wrote that they needed to be careful about Dominic's reaction when they launched the company. My husband responded that Dominic was loyal to his employees, almost to a fault, and they could use that against him. Another email discussed timing. Hannah suggested they wait until they had at least 20 clients committed. My husband agreed, but added they needed an insurance policy, in case Dominic figured out what they were planning. That's when they started discussing me. I found the email where Hannah suggested they could use my relationship with Dominic as leverage. My husband replied that it was perfect, because Dominic would never suspect his girlfriend was part of a setup. They knew exactly who Dominic was before I ever matched with him. This wasn't an accident or a coincidence. They planned this. I photographed every email, my phone clicking relentlessly. Another folder caught my eye. Narrative control. My stomach turned. A detailed plan for how to make it look like I seduced Dominic on purpose. The fake texts were just one part of a much bigger campaign. A whole timeline of false evidence they planned to release. Week 1. Leak the fake texts to the board. Week 2. Have anonymous employees report seeing Dominic and me together before we officially started dating. Week 3. Suggest I've been asking Dominic for favors at work on my husband's behalf. It was all lies, meticulously planned to destroy us both. They even had contingency plans. If Dominic fired my husband, they'd claim retaliation. If Dominic exposed the client theft, they'd say he was covering up his own ethics violations. Every possible move Dominic could make, they'd already planned a counter. I was photographing this document when my phone buzzed. Dominic again. I jumped, almost knocking the laptop off the desk. Scott says this is corporate espionage, fraud, maybe even criminal conspiracy, he said, his voice hard. Keep photographing, but hurry. We don't know when he'll be home. He told me Scott was on his way to his office, and I should come as soon as I was done. I found another file. Timeline adjustment. Dated 2 weeks after I matched with Dominic. My heart sank. My husband had written that he just found out his wife is dating his boss. While this complicates things, it also creates an opportunity. He could accelerate the entire plan. Use our relationship to push Dominic out faster. Hannah responded they should move up their launch date by 3 months. My husband agreed, adding they needed to start documenting everything I do with Dominic. Every date, every mention, every text message. They were going to use it all against us. I found an email thread between Hannah and someone named Joseph. Dating profile strategy. My hands froze. They were discussing my dating profile, the one my friend made. Joseph wrote that the timing was perfect, because she just started looking, and we can guide who she matches with. Hannah asked how. Joseph said he had a friend at the dating app company. They could boost certain profiles to the top of her matches. Make sure she sees Dominic first. Make sure they connect. My husband had responded. It's brilliant. If I match with Dominic organically, no one can ever prove it was planned. They had manipulated the dating app. They had engineered my entire relationship with Dominic from the beginning. It wasn't an accident. It was a trap. My phone rang and I jumped. A number I didn't recognize. Hi, a woman's voice said. I'm the friend who texted you earlier. Asked who she was. I can't tell you my name yet. But I'm someone at the company who's been watching your husband and Hannah for months. She'd noticed things that didn't add up. Documents accessed after hours, client files copied, my husband asking questions about Dominic's schedule. She started paying attention and realized what they were planning. Why are you helping me? He asked. Because what they're doing is wrong, she said. And because Dominic is a good person who doesn't deserve this. She told me to look at one more file. Board presentation. Their endgame. Their final move. You need to see it right now, she said. That's the document that will show you exactly how far they're willing to go. I clicked on Board Presentation. PowerPoint 47 slides. Title slide. Ethics Violation Investigation. CEO Dominic Morrison. My stomach dropped. Slide after slide. Building a case for why the board should fire Dominic immediately. Abuse of power, hostile work environment, inappropriate relationships with a subordinate spouse, breach of company ethics. My husband wrote this whole thing like he was a corporate investigator, not a lying cheater planning to steal clients. Every slide used official company formatting. Fake documentation. The doctored text messages were embedded, with analysis notes explaining how each message proved I targeted Dominic. A timeline making it look like I planned everything. Witness statements from people I'd never heard of. Employees claiming they saw Dominic pursuing me at company events I never attended. All lies, but in formal corporate language, sounding official and believable. I was shaking as I photographed these slides. I could see exactly how this would work on a board of directors who didn't know the real story. The final slides outlined how my husband should be promoted to interim leadership during the transition period. That's when he planned to launch his competing firm and take all the clients with him. I heard a car door slam outside. My whole body went cold. I frantically closed all the files, slammed the laptop shut. I ran downstairs and threw myself onto the couch just as the front door opened. My husband walked in, his eyes narrowing. "Why are you home so early?" he asked. I forced a tired smile. Wasn't feeling well at work. Left early. Been resting on the couch. He stared at me for a long moment, trying to decide if I was lying. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. He finally nodded. "Hope you feel better." He headed upstairs to his office. I stayed frozen on the couch, listening to his footsteps. The sound of his office door closing. I could hear him moving around up there. I was terrified he'd notice something was different. File left open. The mouse in the wrong position. I forced myself to breathe slowly, pulled out my phone, pretending to scroll through social media. 20 minutes later he came back down. "Going out to meet Hannah for dinner," he announced so casually. I wanted to scream. Instead I just nodded. "Okay." He grabbed his keys and left. I waited until I heard his car pull away. Then I called Dominic. "I found everything," I told him, including the board presentation. "It's worse than we thought." A long silence. Then Dominic, his voice very quiet, said, "We need to meet with my attorney tonight." I texted my best friend. "Emergency." She responded within seconds. "What's wrong? Come over right now." She left work immediately. 40 minutes later she was at my door. I met her with my phone already pulled up to the photos. We sat on the couch and I scrolled through every image. Her face changed from confusion to shock to pure fury. "Oh my God," she kept saying. "He really wrote all this?" "Yes," I told her. "Every word." Dominic picked me up at 7. We drove downtown to Scott's office. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. We sat in his office, and I showed him the photographs. He looked at each image carefully, his expression growing darker. He zoomed in on slides, read the fake witness statements, studied the doctored texts. When he finished, he set my phone down and looked at Dominic. "This is corporate espionage," he said. "Fraud. Possibly criminal conspiracy. The client theft plan alone." I interrupted him. "What about the custody document?" I asked, my voice cracking. "The one where he documented every glass of wine." Scott's expression softened just slightly. He said his sister, Belle, was one of the best family law attorneys in the state. He picked up his phone. "Calling her right now." Belle answered. Scott explained everything. Corporate espionage, divorce incoming, custody concerns, fabricated documentation. Belle said she'd be there in 40 minutes. The wait felt endless. Dominic paced. Scott made notes. Belle arrived, walking in like she owned the place. She scrolled through my photos of the custody file, her expression darkening with each swipe. She finally looked up. "Your husband has been building a case against you for months," she said bluntly, documenting everything he could twist into evidence of bad parenting. But then she smiled just a little. "However," she added, "his documentation is so excessive, it actually proves premeditation. Judges don't like it when one parent clearly manufactures evidence. The sheer volume, combined with the dates, will show he planned this whole custody attack before he ever asked to open the marriage. Dominic stopped pacing. What do we do next? Scott ticked off priorities. Secure the evidence, protect Dominic's company, get ahead of whatever your husband is planning. Belle added, we need to file for divorce immediately. Tonight if possible. To establish that you're taking action before your husband can spin his own narrative. Scott suggested a private investigator, his cousin Matteo, who specialized in corporate fraud. We need someone watching them before they realize we're onto them. Belle pulled out her laptop. I have emergency filing paperwork ready to go. I looked at Dominic. He reached over and squeezed my hand. I told Belle, I'm ready. We moved to Belle's office. She walked me through the paperwork. I initialed here, signed there, checking boxes that would legally end my 8-year marriage. It was 9 p.m. My children were at my mother's house, completely unaware their family was falling apart. The pen felt heavy, my signature shaky and strange. Belle said she'd file first thing in the morning. The process server would deliver them to my husband at his office. Scott appeared. He called Camila, Dominic's head of security. Come to the office right now. Urgent. Camila arrived, looking concerned. Scott briefed her, showed her the photos. She suspected something was off about my husband for weeks. He's been accessing files above his clearance level, she said. I thought it was just ambition. But now everything makes sense. Dominic's face went dark. I want him fired immediately. Tomorrow morning. Escorted out. Scott shook his head. No. Firing him now would tip him off. We need him to feel secure while we build our case. If he knows we're investigating, he'll destroy evidence and warn Hannah. We'll lose our chance to catch them both. Dominic looked like he wanted to argue, but stayed quiet, his jaw tight. Camila said she'd start pulling access logs first thing tomorrow. Scott laid out the plan. First, secure our evidence and start surveillance. Then file the divorce to establish our timeline. Finally, wait for your husband to make his next move so we can document it. Dominic asked how long. A few weeks, Scott said. Maybe a month. Belle cut in. The custody issue is urgent, though. She needs to file for divorce immediately. And she needs to stay in the house, no matter how hard that is. Asked why. If you move out, she explained, it could look like you abandoned the family home. That hurts custody cases. Judges want stability for the kids. The thought of sleeping under the same roof as him, knowing everything, made my stomach churn. But I understood. Scott added that staying also meant I could monitor what he did at home. Dominic squeezed my hand. I know this is awful, but we're all here to help you through it. He nodded. File the papers as soon as you can. Camila asked if I was ready for his reaction. I have to be, I said. There's no going back now. Scott told everyone to call it a night. Dominic offered to drive me home, but I told him it was better if I went alone. I didn't want him seeing Dominic's car. Got home just after midnight. My husband's car was in the driveway. He was home, probably asleep. I unlocked the door as quietly as I could, slipped inside. The bedroom door was closed. I opened it carefully. He was lying on his side, facing away, breathing slowly, evenly. I couldn't tell if he was faking it. I changed in the bathroom, brushed my teeth, barely recognizing my reflection. I slid into bed, lay there in the dark, listening to him breathe, knowing that everything between us for months had been a calculated lie. He planned all of this before he ever asked to open our marriage, before Hannah, before any of it. I was just a piece in his game, and he thought I'd never figure it out. My mind replayed the documents, the spreadsheets about our money, the custody notes, the exit strategy he built while kissing me goodbye. I didn't sleep at all that night. The alarm went off at 6:30. My husband rolled over, turned it off. He stretched, yawned like any other morning. Sleep okay? He asked. Fine, I lied. I got up, started coffee, moving through our routine on autopilot. The kids woke up. I made them breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, chatting with them about school. My daughter told me about a project. My son complained about his math teacher. I smiled, nodded, feeling like I was watching myself from outside my body. My husband came down, dressed for work, poured coffee, ruffled our son's hair. He kissed me on the cheek before heading to the door. "Have a good day." I gripped my coffee mug, fighting the urge to throw it in his face, to watch the hot liquid drip down as I told him I knew everything. Instead, I just smiled. "Drive safe." He left. The door closed. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. 2. He'd already started surveillance. He'd picked up my husband leaving the house, followed him to a coffee shop. Hannah met him there. They were sitting at a corner table with papers. Client list. Matteo was watching from his car, taking photos. He'd follow him all day. Things were finally moving. That afternoon, Belle called. "It's done. The divorce papers are filed. The process server is heading to his office now." Camila was watching the security cameras. 15 minutes later, Camila called. She described what she just watched. The process server walked into his office, handed him the envelope. He opened it. His face went completely white, then bright red. He started yelling at the process server, who just turned and walked out. My husband stood there, holding the papers. Camila said he was still in his office, door closed, pacing. He came home that evening. The front door slammed. He stormed into the kitchen where I was making dinner for the kids, holding the divorce papers. His face was red, his voice loud. "Why are you divorcing me when we agreed to work on our marriage?" I stayed calm, stirring the pasta. "We never agreed to work on anything. You opened the marriage. I'm closing it. Permanently. This is insane. We have kids. A life together," he screamed. "The open marriage was your idea, not mine," I said, turning to face him. "I'm done pretending this works." He stepped closer, his voice dropping low. "I'm going to regret this." I looked him right in the eye. "You should be more worried about your job than our custody arrangement." Confusion flickered across his face. "What does that mean?" I just turned back to the stove. "Dinner in 10 minutes. He stood there trying to figure out what I knew. Then he walked away. That night, after the kids were in bed, he went into his office. I crept down the hallway listening. Frantic typing. Drawers opening. Papers rustling. He was checking his files. His laptop. I heard him swear under his breath. He was in there for over an hour. When he came out, his face pale and worried, he walked right past me, went upstairs to. But the next morning he came downstairs earlier than usual. "Did you go through my laptop?" His voice was tight. "I don't even know your password," I said with feigned confusion. "Why would I go through your work computer?" He kept staring. "Why did you mention my job yesterday?" "What did you mean?" Shrugged. "Just meant divorce is expensive. You should focus on keeping your income steady." I asked if there was a problem at work. "No," he said, but his jaw was clenched. "Everything's fine." Smiled. "Eggs for breakfast." He said he wasn't hungry and left. I watched his car pull away, then texted Dominic. He responded within seconds. Camila was already monitoring his computer access. After school drop-off, I drove to a coffee shop and uploaded all the photos from his laptop to 3 different cloud accounts, and emailed them to Belle and Scott. 2 hours later, Camila called. My husband just tried to access the main client database from his work computer. His credentials got flagged 3 times. He was panicking. Camila watched him on security cameras, looking around his office like he was worried someone was watching him. She just briefed Dominic. They were moving up their timeline. That afternoon, Scott called me. They were scheduling an emergency board meeting for Thursday morning. They needed to present all the evidence before my husband could launch whatever attack he was planning. Belle called an hour later. The custody motion was filed. The judge granted an expedited hearing because of the evidence showing my husband fabricated concerns about my parenting. The documentation he kept was so excessive it proved he was building a case against me deliberately. The judge saw right through it. He'd be served tomorrow morning. That evening he acted completely normal. Played with the kids, asked about my day. I had to sit across from him at dinner, pretending I didn't know what was about to happen. After the kids went to bed, he disappeared into his office again, typing, moving things around, still trying to figure out what I knew. The next morning, 9:30 a.m. Text from Camila. The process server just walked into his office, handed him the custody motion paperwork. She watched it happen on the monitors. He opened it, face white, then red, yelling, pacing, talking on the phone. 20 minutes later, Camila texted again. He called an attorney named Hugo, known for aggressive family law tactics. The battle lines were officially drawn. That afternoon, Matteo sent his first full report. Photos and detailed notes. My husband and Hannah meeting with 3 of Dominic's biggest clients at restaurants over the past 2 weeks, pitching their competing firm before they'd even left the company. Photos showed client lists matching my husband's exit strategy folder. Got called almost excited. This was exactly the evidence they needed for the board meeting. Thursday morning. I woke at 5 a.m. Couldn't sleep. My husband was already up, tense, distracted. Barely said goodbye. The board meeting started at 8. I stared at my phone waiting. Dominic texted at 9:15. It's done. Call you later. 3 hours later he finally called from his car. The board meeting was brutal, he said. In the best way possible. Scott presented everything systematically. Documents and photos projected on the screen. The board members sat in complete silence. The exit strategy folder. The LLC formation documents. Matteo's surveillance photos of the client meetings. The fake text messages. You could hear people breathing, Dominic said. Then Phil, a trusted board member, asked Dominic if his relationship with me influenced any business decisions. Dominic told them no. Provided his own timeline. Explained how my husband weaponized our relationship. Phil nodded, thanked him for his honesty. The board voted unanimously to terminate my husband's employment immediately, and to pursue legal action for theft of trade secrets. Security escorted him out within an hour. How did he react? Yes. Camila told Dominic he tried to argue, threaten legal action. Security just kept walking him toward the exit. They took his badge, his laptop, his phone. Everything. He left the building with just his jacket and keys. I was making lunch when I heard a car in the driveway in the middle of the day. My stomach dropped. It was him. The front door slammed. He stormed into the kitchen. Red face, hands shaking. Still in his work clothes, but no badge, no briefcase. He started screaming. Dominic destroyed his career. Ruined everything. I stood there, holding a knife because I was cutting vegetables. I put it down slowly, turned to face him. I stayed completely calm. Dominic didn't destroy anything, I told him. You destroyed yourself. By being a lying thief who tried to steal clients and frame his boss. His face got even redder. He stepped closer. You don't know what you're talking about. I looked him right in the eye. What about the exit strategy folder? All the color drained from his face. He knew. He realized I'd accessed his laptop. He opened his mouth, but no words came out for a few seconds. How did you get my password? He finally choked out. Smiled. Someone who knows you better than I do gave it to me. He stood there processing. Trying to figure out who betrayed him. You should leave, I said. Before this gets worse. Where am I supposed to go? He asked. Shrugged. Hannah's place. You're business partners now. He stared at me with pure hatred. You're going to regret this. Picked up my phone. I have copies of your entire exit strategy folder. If you threaten me again, I'll make sure the police see every file. He looked at my phone, then back at my face. Something shifted in his expression. He knew he'd lost. He turned and walked out without another word. I heard his car start up and drive away. I stood in my kitchen for a long time. The silence felt strange after all that yelling. I texted Belle immediately. She responded within minutes. Document everything. Write down exactly what he said. The next morning, Belle called early. Hugo, his aggressive lawyer, had called her office, trying to set up a settlement meeting. He sounded worried. "We're not settling anything," Belle told him. "We're going to court." 2 days later, I got a call from Dr. Miller, the court-appointed psychologist for our custody evaluation. She asked about everything. I told her the truth, including how he manipulated the situation and planned everything. During one session, she asked about the exit strategy folder. I showed her the photos. Belle later told me that my husband tried to charm Dr. Miller, painting himself as the stable parent. But Dr. Miller had already reviewed all the evidence Belle submitted, including the fake texts and the custody advantage document. Belle said the evaluator saw right through him. His credibility was destroyed. 3 weeks after my husband got fired, Dominic called. Hannah just got escorted out of the building by security. The investigation proved she was actively involved in the client theft conspiracy. She tried to sue the company, but her lawyer dropped the case within a month. Meanwhile, Scott's forensic accountant discovered something else. My husband had been moving money from our joint savings into the LLC for months. Thousands of dollars I never knew about. Belle immediately added financial fraud charges to the divorce filing. A month later, Belle called with news that made me actually laugh out loud. Hugo had withdrawn from my husband's case. My husband couldn't pay his retainer. The LLC had no clients, no income. He'd burned through all his savings funding his failed conspiracy. The divorce proceedings dragged on for 4 months. Belle was relentless. My husband's new lawyer was clearly overwhelmed. Finally, in mediation, Isabella, the mediator, told my husband bluntly that he needed to accept reality. We reached a settlement. Primary custody for me, supervised visitation for him until he completed anger management. I kept the house, he kept his car, and whatever was left of his dignity. When the divorce finally became official, Dominic and I had a long conversation. Our relationship started in chaos. We needed to build a real foundation. We started going on actual dates, normal ones, just talking, getting to know each other without crisis. He took me to dinner at normal restaurants, not fancy business places. We went to movies, walked through parks. It felt strange at first, almost boring after everything that happened. But it was the good kind of strange. The kind where I could just be myself, without constantly looking over my shoulder. The kids adjusted better than I expected, especially once they weren't living in a house full of tension and lies. My daughter stopped having nightmares about mommy and daddy fighting. My son started bringing friends over again without worrying what kind of mood his dad would be in. One Saturday morning while we were making pancakes, my son looked up at me and said, "Mom, I'm glad you're smiling again." I realized I hadn't even known I'd stopped. 6 months after everything exploded, I'm sitting in my kitchen drinking coffee, actually feeling peaceful for the first time in years. My ex-husband is working retail at some electronics store, living in a studio apartment. Honestly, I don't think about him much anymore, except when the kids come back from visits. Hannah moved to another city. Dominic and I are building something real and honest now, taking our time doing things right. We have actual conversations about our future, instead of just surviving the present. The kids are thriving. I got that promotion at work I'd been hoping for. I'm finally free from someone who saw me as a pawn in his game instead of a partner in his life. Life isn't perfect, and some days are still hard, but it's genuinely mine now. And that's everything I needed it to be. I hope this story gives you a little perspective, or maybe even some strength if you're going through something similar. What do you think? Have you ever had to fight so hard for your own truth? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.